we ain't had to take niggas to Paris. I know there's niggas in Paris. We don't need niggas in Paris no more. We don't need niggas in Paris no more. Like, we just don't, we don't need niggas in Paris. Like, we don't. Hi guys, what's up? It's Tahira. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, hello. Don't forget to click that subscribe button down below and join the fam. I make a lot of fun videos like today's video. This topic may seem a little bit old, a little recycled, but I never publicly gave you guys my take on a lot of the influencer brand trip scandals that have been happening for the past like 2 years, and like what the resuscitation of brand trips means for the current digital age that we're in right now, which is obviously very TikTok heavy. We have also a whole bunch of new like mainstream Black influencers, and so I've always been a consumer of media, a student, I would say, of social media, and I've always been very nerdy about it, but I don't have a lot of opportunities to really talk about it until now. As you can tell from this title, I really wanted to have a conversation about, are brand trips safe for Black influencers? As you guys know, I am a content creator. Even though I may be new to some of y'all, I have been doing content creation full-time for almost 3-4 years, mainly on Instagram and TikTok. So I have a bit of experience and obviously an opinion and also an insider look into how this industry kind of runs, but I'm also like not a super like huge creator, so keep that in mind. Where do we start? We're gonna have to start with the Topicals trip to France, only because I am able to talk about this from like 3 aspects of my identity. 1, from the fact that I am a Black woman. 2, I am Muslim, and if you add those things together, it's a whole nother category, but also as an influencer. So we have a lot to sit and unpack. Topicals is a Black-owned skincare brand dedicated to helping and spotlighting skincare concerns that are very specific to highly melanated skin. A lot of their products focus on things like hyperpigmentation, eczema, acne scarring, ingrown hairs. They are a brand that aims to fill in that gap, and they're very intentional about their branding and their marketing being about Black and brown folks and our skincare needs. I have been an OG Topicals fan literally since they launched. I don't know if people noticed, they were called actually My Topicals for a very long time. And then they also were like co-founded by an Asian girl. I don't know if anybody else remembers that, but that's how long I've been shopping at Topicals. I've had the very first faded serum. It's over there. I literally use it every day. I've had the very first faded serum since people were saying it smelled so bad. And when y'all saw my Confessions of a Black Muslim Lover Girl video, I literally had on my Topicals eye patches for half the video. So I have to get that out there, because what I'm about to say is not a call out, it is a call in. As somebody who is a part of the community, a consumer, and a lover of the brand as a creator. They are a brand that I would love to work with. And to be honest, I also wanted to make this video because I would have loved to be on a Topicals brand trip. So Topicals brand trips have kind of become a thing because last December, they did Dirty December, which if you don't know is basically it's super popular for a lot of people from West Africa who have West African parents, West African heritage, to come back home for the holidays, but also, you know, a lot of people are off during that time. Over the past few years, since I think a lot of the diaspora has kind of interacted with each other in mainly beautiful ways, it has become a sort of collective celebration to come back to the continent, just be beautiful and Black in the motherland, right? Which, Allah, please allow me to go. I want to go to the December so bad. So during Dirty December last year, they went to Ghana. Everything from the marketing, the branding, the influencers they chose, the type of content that was created, it all was just like chef's kiss. Like, you can just tell that Topicals is a brand that has their finger on the pulse. They are not outside of the culture. They are not outside of what Black people consume and how we create on the internet. They are a part of it. They are actively consuming it themselves. Topicals is also really transparent about the team that they have, which is, from what I can tell, majority Black and brown women who are millennial Gen Z. They really just ate up their brand trip to the point where so many influencers, myself included, were like tagging Topicals even more, being like, hey, hola, like literally trying to shoot their shot to go on this brand trip with, respectfully, who don't want to go on a brand trip with creative, beautiful Black people to the motherland? Right. So the brand trip was such a success. It was also the launch of the Slick Salve. And I think after seeing all of the success and the love from that brand trip, they wanted to give the audience what they wanted. In my opinion, this brand trip to France came out of nowhere. I say this with love and light. I think they were trying to continue with the momentum that they had got from Dechi December. The Dechi December trip for Slick Salve is not their first brand trip. They did another one to, I think, a Caribbean island, but I don't remember them launching a product. And so this time around for this brand trip, they did things a little differently. I don't feel like I have to explain what a brand trip is for y'all. Sometimes these are things you are paid for. Sometimes you are just paid from the experience. Sometimes you are obligated to post all the time. Sometimes you just can post whenever you want. Like, it truly depends on what brand and what influencers and also what place that they're going to. So they had a selected group of influencers for this trip, which I saw pretty late. They were calling it Slick Alps, right? So naturally, I just want to ask my audience, when you hear the word Slick Alps and knowing that they have a product called Slick Salve, did you not also think this was a play on the word Swiss Alps in Switzerland? Because that is what I thought. That is where I thought they were going. Oh, babes, imagine my shock when I found out that they were going to France. We'll get into France in a little bit. This brand trip was different because they had opened up slots for creators to basically submit and like audition to make it to the brand trip, which I really like. As a smaller creator, I'm often overlooked for opportunities like this. And I think a lot of micro and smaller creators are, because people are like, what are you bringing to the table? Especially when you think about how much money these brands invest in brand trips. They obviously want an ROI. So I really appreciated the fact that they were opening it up for people to kind of like shoot their shot. And I really think that this was the Lord protecting me, because as I said before, I would have loved to go on a brand trip with Topicals. I have also been trying to shoot my influencer brand partnership shot with them for quite a while. And I feel like if I would have saw it in time, I would have submitted it. But we thank God for the things that he protect us from. I saw that there was maybe 2 Black Muslim girls that were invited on the trip. I only remember one, but I heard them speaking about another one. I'm going to put her information on the screen. She's not somebody that I follow, so unfortunately I don't remember her name. I'm always excited when other Black Muslim women win. It is very complicated sometimes navigating the intersectionality of being a Black Muslim woman who's also visibly Muslim who wears hijab. Sometimes you feel a little left out, and not in the tragic mulatto type of way. And alhamdulillah, I didn't have an experience where I felt like, oh my God, I had to choose between my Blackness and my Muslimness. But a lot of people can't comprehend these two identities. So it's always nice when I see other Black Muslim women get to be themselves and get their Blackness and their Muslimness celebrated. I always love that. I'm always a fan. And if there was any brand that I would trust to really celebrate and uphold this, it's Topicals. Another little caveat about the trip though that I want to add, I'm not going to make this too Islamic because today, I'm not necessarily talking about being Muslim, but Islam is obviously a part of it. This brand trip was happening during Ramadan. That's hard to really admire a brand, to really respect them, and have this opportunity, right, of a lifetime, which we're going to get into a little bit later about how this may be guilt or desire to really break through in your industry can make a lot of Black influencers do things that may be questionable in regards to their own ethics. We're going to talk about that a little later, but it is really hard to like have this opportunity with a brand of a lifetime to go with them, but this is during your holy month. It's not necessarily, I would say that it was haram for the 2 hijabis to go on a brand trip during Ramadan. Would I have done it personally? Probably not, only because I need to be really tapped in and tuned in during Ramadan. And also, we just have to be for real. Like I said, sometimes the identity of being Black and Muslim can kind of get a little weird in practice or in the wild, for lack of a better term, because brand trips are great, right? But these are not Muslim brands. And so there's certain things that they are doing that Muslims cannot engage in or can't engage in the same capacity. So for example, even with the December trip, they're going to clubs, they're going here, they're going there, they're in pools. Like there's just certain things that like as a Muslim, those things look differently, especially as a Muslim woman who wears hijab. I personally would have just felt like it would be too much to try to figure out, okay, well, we have to go to this place and I have to create content. Y'all are drinking. So how long do I have to be here? Because I don't do that. And also some Muslims, by the way, they are of the opinion that you can't even be around people or spaces where alcohol is being served. Or if, you know, we're supposed to be trying to get content, but I need to go break away for at least 3 out of 5 of the prayers of the day, which take place when the sun is up. So these are just things that like would have been happening in my mind. And one day I was just minding my business during Ramadan and I was scrolling on TikTok and I saw this video from Nella Rose. And Nella Rose is a comedian, influencer, internet personality. Love her. Somebody had reposted some stories from her Snapchat and she was talking about how she's on a brand trip and her and all of these Black people, I don't think were there any non-black people on the trip? Maybe one or two. So let's just say all of these black and brown people, these highly melanated people, were on this branch with this brand, having a good old time, having a kiki, and then they go to this spa. This spa is really popular on TikTok. For context, Nella Rose is Belgian, so she speaks French, and this is the moment that I found out they were in France. I literally had no idea. I had no idea that they were in France.
An influencer trip to the French Alps, sponsored by the black-owned skincare brand Topicals, took an awful turn when this group of creators were confronted by discriminatory employees. Nella Rose, among the other 20 influencers invited, took to Instagram to call out the employees of this spa for discriminating against two of the creators on the trip who were Muslim.
The mentality was like, you're not going to discriminate our friends and expect us to stay. So not only are you Islamophobic, people are uncomfortable because 20 black people with pink eye patches have come in and they feel uncomfortable.
So when the creators went to the spa, the two Muslim influencers had on modest swimwear, but before they could even get into the actual spa, one of the employees threatened to call the police, and the lifeguards said that they needed to leave because they were making people feel uncomfortable.
That Islamophobic shit, that racist shit, we wasn't going to stand for it, so we left.
Topicals addressed the incident on their Instagram and X page, alleging discrimination and harassment against their group. Not that this spa has a very good reputation anyway, but what do you think about this?
If you don't know, a burkini is like essentially like a modest bathing suit, right? Like they look kind of similar to the full sweatsuits that like surfers wear, but there's usually like a longer top or a skirt element. Sometimes they have a scarf included. They're made out of swimsuit material. So the hijabi influencers on the trip are wearing a burkini, and in typical France fashion, one of the workers at the spa is like, y'all can't come in here with this. Now, I saw few people say that their reasoning was because this violates their protocols on their website, which is that excess material will cause you to drown in a swimming pool with grown-ass people, okay, well over the height of like 3 feet. And so because of that, you are not able to wear extra clothing in the pool. Like this is a part of their bathing suit. It's not extra. And also, once again, I want to emphasize, burkinis are swimsuit material. Nella Rose comes over there and as somebody who speaks French, she's telling the guy like, what are you talking about? They're wearing swimsuits. Let them in. They're with us. The guy is like, no, we sell bikinis downstairs. They can go put them on or get out. Typical France fashion. Typical. From the TikToks I saw, which were from the girls' point of views, but then Nella's point of view and then a couple other people on the trip, everybody like on the Topicals brand trip pretty much moved as a collective, which huge shout out to Topicals. That's not a surprise. They really feel like, at least to me, they seem to have very strong ethics and they really care about their creators and they're very intentional. I'm sure we don't really have to have a conversation about that. They all were pretty much like, okay, well, F you and your brand and your spa, and we're gonna blast y'all on social media, like all of that. We're gone. The owners of the spa is like, we call the police are coming, we call the police, have fun at the police station. Girl, just colonizing how they do, being colonizers. Okay, France doing what they do, right? That's why I cannot wait till Allah pick it up and smash it, pick it up and yeah. Anyway, here are my thoughts. I already talked about the fact that this is a trip during Ramadan, and that to me was already a little shaky. It wasn't a red flag at all. I think any Muslim person would pause and be like, is this in alignment with what I have going on right now? But even though I wouldn't probably have made the same decision, I understand how hard it is to say no to something like that as a Black creator. And I think also as a Black Muslim creator, unfortunately, the algorithm is really always pushing my content, at least, to Muslim corner of the internet, which is fine, except for the fact that if you've ever been on the Muslim corner of the internet, it's not fun. And so I'm constantly in this place of wanting to make sure that I'm always talking about my Blackness and I'm always leading with my Blackness, because the hijab speaks for itself, right? The hijab, my name, we don't even have to have a conversation about if I'm Muslim, but there is sometimes a conversation about how involved in Blackness and Black culture, Black politics that I am. And so for me, that is an intentional effort. So I understand being like, ooh, wow, this is a Black brand trip and I get to go as my Black self with my little scarf on and I get to be with my people. Like, so not too much on the girls who decided to go on the trip. Another cause for pause and concern, and the actual real red flag of this situation, is the fact that this brand trip was in France. It's, with love and light, it's really hard for me to wrap my head around why a Black owned, Black ran, Black facilitated brand would send a bunch of Black people to France. I'm very aware that there are many of Black people who are in France. There are many of Muslim people that are in France. There are many Black and Muslim people that speak French. I'm aware of colonization. Nobody has to explain this to me. If we're talking about autonomy and like the fact that you as a brand get to choose where you bring your creators, with the track record that France has had, if you don't want to talk about colonization, which I don't know why you wouldn't, like we can't ever talk about France and not talk about colonialism. We can just talk about what the Black experience is like in France. What is the experience for Black people of the diaspora from Francophone countries? We could talk about Haiti. We can talk about what the experience is like for Muslim women, specifically women that wear hijab in France. What is the legal climate, the political climate there for Black and brown and Muslim people? This really feels like a big miss from the Topicals team. I personally am of the opinion, and I have been for a very long time, that I will never step foot in France. I don't care what opportunity is presented to me. I will never step foot. I will never spend a dime. I will never support anything that country has going on. As a Black person, as a Muslim, as a hijabi, never in my life. I wish nothing but negativity, okay, for that country. Nothing but evil eye, evil eye, evil eye, evil eye. Okay? I don't even want to hear French, to be honest. I don't even like the language. Obviously, the victims of colonization have done beautiful things with the aspects of French culture that they have had forced onto them in regards to the language, the music, the fashion, all of that. I'm not denying that. But this is just like what the country represents. I would never step foot. And this is not a high and mighty thing. These are my morals. These are my, I would never. There's no opportunity you can present to me. And I'm not saying that this would be easy to say no to, but I would never. Inshallah, I pray that I can stand on that and would never. It just feels like it could have been avoidable. And I think this is a situation where the intersectionality of being Black and Muslim are a little tricky, because I think maybe overall, like Black people go to France all the time, right? Black people don't have the same experience in France as women who wear hijab, abayas, burqas, niqabs, who are publicly Muslim. They don't have that same experience at all. And to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any specifically anti-Black legislation. Please educate me in the comments. I would love to know more if there are, but I am very well versed in the increasing amount of Islamophobia that is a part of French legislation, and specifically an attack towards Muslim women who decide to cover themselves. And this has been a source of contention since colonization. Since they was going to Algeria and North Africa and came and colonized, and then understandably so, the victims of colonization moved to France, there has been a space of contention of French people feeling like, what's called separation of church and state, leave that stuff back home, we have liberated you, we freed you. Like, this is as if white people, white colonizers can ever say anything about what's just or what's moral. Please, nigga, please. But that's so well documented. That's so real. That's so raw. And I do have to say, I question any hijabi that is willingly going to France. I do. I do. I'm being so for real. I really don't want to judge too much, but I have to look at y'all a little bit sideways, because what are we doing? Why are we going where we're not wanted? F y'all and your Eiffel Tower. F the Arc de Triomphe. F your baguettes, F your croissants, like literally no me importa. Like, I don't know what we're doing. And the same can be said about a lot of countries in Europe. A lot. The same can be said about America. 100%. And so I'm not saying this is an easy conversation to have, or that these are easy boundaries to set up. But even more than I look at the hijabis who have decided to go, when you are on a brand trip, you are under the tutelage and kind of the care of the brand that you're with. And as much as I love Topicals, this is a really like such an avoidable mistake to have made, because you don't take hijabis to France. Like I literally have French followers who are Muslim women who talk to me all the time about the fact that they cannot wear hijab to school, that they wear beanies and they have to find so many ways to hide their hijab or hide their acts of modesty. Like this is public information. And Black people, a lot of us, especially if you're from Francophone countries, are in relationship, in community with Muslim women who experience this, or who would be subject to this type of Islamophobia. And so I do feel like there needed to be more research and more care, especially because y'all wasn't promoting anything. There's no new products that I'm aware of. So why we didn't go to Switzerland? And who goes to Paris? Who goes to France for snow? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not well versed on French travel stuff. I don't care, to be honest. But cold destinations, you want to be in the Alps, you want to ski, you want to do all of that. There's a few other places that are way less problematic that could have been options.
Topicals, friends. Now, I saw what happened in y'all recent brand trip, and I am praying that everyone is okay. But if y'all need like a travel consigliere, you know, I'm your girl. And as a travel journalist and someone who has literally lived around the world, I come on this platform and I always tell y'all that it is imperative that you pay attention to the climate of the places that you're going. It is not new news that France has had consistent Islamophobic policy. And they are literally borderline obsessed with banning and barring headscarves. So whomever does the planning for the travel of these brand trips, just bear in mind that certain intersectionalities can mean criminality in different places around the world. And the last thing, respectfully, who invited Muslims on a brand trip during Ramadan? And it's no shade because obviously it's topicals. Like, who would not want to go on a topicals brand trip? But also in understanding representation, it is also critical that we understand the nuance of other people's faiths and spirituality. And obviously the creators could have declined. However, I also think it's just important to note that in knowing how special Ramadan is for Muslims, and even on a basic level, that Ramadan is not just abstaining from food and water, but also just worldly consumption in and of itself. Just please don't make the next trip during Ramadan. And I know the CEO of Topicals Olamide is all about leveling up. So we're still rooting for Topicals. I don't know what y'all thought this was.
But in general, we already know that like Europe and France have a status symbol in regards to traveling. That's for real. And I do want to make a video eventually about traveling as a Black Muslim woman because I've been traveling quite a lot. If you don't know, I lived in Colombia for 3 months. And I've just kind of started getting into my travel bag. So once I get more information, I will report back. I'm also, inshallah, going to be doing like a whole summer in Europe this year. Take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. We ain't had to take niggas to Paris. I know there's niggas in Paris. We don't need niggas in Paris no more. We don't need niggas in Paris no more. Like, we just don't, we don't need niggas in Paris. Like, we just don't. But what I will say is huge shout out to Topicals because not only did they stand 10 toes down with the hijabi creators, but they also publicly spoke out against the spa. They also immediately, not that the brand trip was over, but we're not doing this. Like, they immediately like exited premises. They also, I forgot how much, I'm going to put it on the screen from their statement response, but they contributed, I think maybe like $10,000. I really appreciate that. And that is in alignment with who I know Topicals to be as a brand. I hope that moving forward, that if they are going to continue with these experiences, that there's a bit more research and consultation done on the places that we're going to and how they impact the people and the intersectionalities that they have of the like creators on the trip. Not too much on Topicals. This is the least quote unquote problematic brand trip in my opinion. Alhamdulillah, everybody was safe. All the girls and all the creators were fine. Nobody got arrested, not that I know. Nobody was assaulted. So like I said, this is not a call out, this is a call in. If you need consultation about the Black Muslim woman travel experience, Topicals, call me, beat me if you want to reach me. Like, call me right now. Email down below, you know? There's always room to grow and there's always like love in regards to like Black brands who are really doing their best. What are like the stakes when you are a Black creator going on a brand trip? Topicals is very unique because this is a Black owned brand. And so you're really not in that much danger, in my opinion. The stakes are not as high. But there are a few other brand trips that have happened in the past like 2 years that it's very obvious that the Black people were kind of like nailed on the cross. They were really giving like Samuel L. Jackson jumping in front of Leonardo DiCaprio. You know what I mean? Like, no, don't hit my mask. Like, really put on the front lines to take the hit for the corporations and the brands that invited them to these brand trips. Shein is a brand that everybody knows is doing really like pretty shitty things in regards to sustainability, consumerism, fast fashion. They are, yeah, they're not seeing the pearly gates, I fear. This is public knowledge, right? And I'm very careful about how I critique consumers of Shein, and only specifically really plus size consumers. I think for everybody else, I mean, I want to hear it. You know, plus size and poor. Plus size, poor, color. Yeah. And I actually did a whole video talking about fast fashion. And I said fast fashion is a rich people problem. It's a few years old. I don't know if I agree with all of my thoughts in that video, but I think for the most part, I was saying that Black, brown, poor, and plus size people do not consume and engage with fashion and fast fashion the way that rich, than white people do. Black, brown, poor, and plus size people have always thrifted, have always had to do hand-me-downs. We wear our clothes a lot longer. A lot of us already know how to sew. You know how to be multi-purpose with your clothes. You're giving your clothes to your cousins when you're done. Like, you're going to like church meets, and like there's a lot more ethics involved in how we shop and we consume than the alternative. Now, I'm not saying there's no room for critique or conversation, but we shouldn't be getting a lot of the smoke. That's what I said in that video, and I do stand by that. So this Shein trip was kind of crazy because, once again, as a creator, and I hope I don't come across as like holier than thou or like more woke than somebody else, because that's not the point. I guess I just want to emphasize my own boundaries because I want other creators to know, specifically Black creators, that you can have them. That if you allow yourself to be led by seeking the approval in these spaces, you will be dragged down with them. I would never do a brand deal with Shein. Especially because a lot of the people suffering under Shein's effects on fast fashion and sustainability are Muslim women. I can't say that I would never shop at Shein or that I have never shopped at Shein, but Shein is not a main source of clothing for me. That's not always an easy decision, but alhamdulillah, it is a decision I'm trying to abide by. So Shein did this brand trip, and they had a mix of influencers. There are two that I'm thinking of. There was a like white plus size girl, and there was a Black girl also involved on the trip. And I mentioned them because to me, they were the ones kind of like speaking the loudest when all the controversy happened. It's well documented, the stuff that Shein has been doing in their factories and in regards to how much clothes that they put out every day, how much waste that they accumulate. Like, this is public knowledge. I'm pretty sure there's a whole documentary actually on this stuff going on in Shein. And people were talking about they was getting packages and some of the workers was like, help me. Like, nigga, this nigga, we know, right? So the fact that like these creators would go on this brand trip, I'm not doing too much, but they are not absolved of criticism. But the craziest part to me was the fact that they're on this brand trip, and they're essentially like, it seems like their whole goal of the brand trip was just to be like, hey y'all, oh my gosh, look, they got rights. Like, look, the factory is clean. Oh my God. They don't got no kids working 24-hour shifts. Oh my God. Look, they had a lunch break. Look, they got robots. Okay, ethical.
Everybody was just working like normal, like chill, sitting down. They weren't even sweating. We were the ones sweating walking through the whole facility.
Like, just gaslighting all of us. Like, I keep saying nigga please because my mom and I were talking about like the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, and then we were listening to Ether from Nas and talking about Jay-Z. So I just keep like, nigga please is just in my vocabulary right now. But anyway, that's crazy. I'm trying to figure out where most of the smoke I have is for. It's majority for Shein, because you're actually walling. Like, you're literally trying to gaslight all of us as if we don't know. We all know. We all can see it. But it's already a little bit like concerning that the influencers went on the trip, that anybody would do this. But I understand the scarcity. And like I said, I don't want to say it's a scarcity mindset because it's real life scarcity. You can look this up. A lot of the same statistics when it comes to pay gap and discrimination in the workplace that happens offline also happens in regards to the social media industry. It's well documented that Black people, specifically Black women, are overlooked for opportunities, are not getting paid like our white counterparts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they brought y'all there and asked you to tap dance for massa. And then, to make matters worse, when the backlash came, it seemed like they were all like, they had a script ready to spew to all of us, to recite to us about how, no, you guys, like, I had the same concerns about Shein, but look, everything was cool.
It didn't feel like a show. It didn't feel like something was quickly put together.
Influencer Danny Carbonari is speaking out against growing criticism after posting glowing reviews of Shein's operations in China. In an almost 12-minute video, the influencer begins by saying she is imperfect and can take accountability for her actions. She describes being interested in the brand over their size, inclusivity, and affordability, and said she's friends with someone who worked there who helped make further introductions. She explains the company took her on a brand trip to Tahoe, where she says she brought up many concerns and questions to the higher-ups. Later, she said she had an off-the-record meeting with political people and journalists where higher-ups addressed more questions and gave answers.
To me, I'm a very like logistic person, and they just gave so many numbers, and like that's when I learned about like their auditing system and how they do have so many suppliers.
She explains that the China trip was organized because the company wanted to put an end to criticism.
We're aware of all these rumors and all of this stuff that's going on, and we want to put an end to it. The trip, we were not paid for the trip. We were not paid to post. Our travel accommodations were taken care of.
But ultimately, Danny still says she needs to do better, adding that the experience has caused her to reevaluate her brand and herself.
I should have done more research. And I think content creators in general, we don't do enough research. And I think especially plus size content creators, we're just so happy to be included. I'm, sorry and sad that a lot of people that don't know me, are so angry and upset. But the best thing that I can do moving forward is to lead with the same intention and authenticity I always have, and add in doing the research, doing my part.
It just was like, we cooning for them? Like, why? Oh, dang. FD said he couldn't say coon in his video. We tap dancing for them? We're tap dancing for Shein, $1 billion company that is literally trying to end our planet. Like, I don't know. Like, and so this is the part where I really want to have a conversation about morality and ethics as a creator, specifically as creators from our own marginalized identities. I completely understand why the plus size girl, and I don't mean that to like be rude, I just don't know her, and I just don't remember her name, I don't follow her. As a plus size girl and as a black girl influencer creator, it is hard. 100%. It is hard. A lot of people can dismiss that, but it's hard, right? There's a lack of opportunities. You're often overlooked for somebody lighter, for somebody thinner. These are very real realities. Once again, I want to keep doubling down by saying, I don't think it's an easy decision to have ethics under capitalism. One of my favorite creators, video essayists, which I don't think she's active anymore, Fab Socialism, she said this in the intro of all of her videos, that it's not hypocritical to critique capitalism and still be a part of it, because that is a critique that we are all forced to exist and operate in these ways under the system of capitalism. And so the critique is coming from a place of also like I hate it here, right? So it's not even the hypocrisy that I personally harp on too much, because the systems that we live under make us all hypocrites in one way or another. I guess I'm wondering, is there a line drawn? What are the ethics that Black and brown and marginalized creators have? And I want to focus on Black people. Obviously, that's the title of this video. I just don't think that we can afford to be apolitical. Your existence as a Black person is political. There's never a moment where you are not going to be seen as Black, as other. And so if anything, that should make you more outraged. That should make you more in tune with the fact that all of these systems of oppression coexist with each other. And the things that I experience in America or in my own respective countries under colonialism, racism, anti-Blackness, other people are also experiencing. I don't think that Black people can choose to not care about other issues going on in the world. Free Palestine. We cannot afford to take that stance. And to be fair, Black people historically really have never, like in mass, never have really was like, oh, I don't care about nobody else. Everybody is fully aware that like the civil rights movement by Black people here in the US changed the course of the world. Full stop. I'm not interested for y'all to start talking about African Americans. Okay. As an African American descendant of slaves, not too much. So I'm not saying that Black people naturally have this disposition, but when money comes into the room, Black people, we already know, we start acting a little different. So many of my favorite video essayists have talked about how Black billionaires are not your friend. Black billionaires are not going to save us. I just finished the autobiography of Malcolm X. I love that man. I read it during Ramadan. 10 out of 10 experience to read that during Ramadan. But he was highly critical of the Black bourgeoisie, the Black upper middle class, the Black rich, because something about when Negroes get a little bit of money, or when money is on the table, like we really believe that money will save us. And in some ways, it's money is like a band-aid. It's not the end all be all. And I think because some niggas have really been able to get to certain places because of money, and really it's not because of money, it's because of the way that capitalism steals from everybody else. So insert Diddy here, insert Jay-Z here, insert Beyonce here, insert Rihanna here, and the ways that they participate and they learned the game from white people and did it for themselves, that it's like, oh, but what's the problem? There's many problems to be had. And this is not a Black billionaires video, but you can't be a billionaire and a good person. Sorry. Do I think that the standards are held the same way for Black creators and Black people as they are for our non-Black counterparts? No. I do think that Black people are expected to, especially Black women, are expected to be on the front line of every issue, of everything. We are 100% expected to take the fall for everyone. I don't want to sensationalize and act like this is an all Black people thing or this is an only Black people thing. I don't want to act like that. But this is just me talking for somebody in the community, talking to my fellow members of the community, being like, what are we doing? Are we losing the plot? is the question. Just a bit. And the thing about the Shein brand trip that I feel like is unique to all these other brand trips is the way that the Shein stuff was so blatantly wrong that they literally were reliant on their creators, specifically the plus size one and the black one, to cape for them out here in these streets, to literally get on the cross for them. And it just feels like the black creators are always getting the bad end of the stick, the bad end of the deal. I'm sure if I know black people like I think I do, I've been black 25 years. If I know black people the way I think I do, I know that there is something don't sit right in your spirit anyway, right? That we are all, when we are faced with the reality of the scarcity or the scarceness of opportunities in any industry, plus the capitalism or the anti-blackness or the racism that is apparent or always on the other side of a door, that there's something that don't sit right in your spirit when you get these emails or opportunities in the first place, right? But once again, like, capitalism makes a hypocrite out of all of us. So you decide to go, you decide to do it, you sign up, and then all of a sudden because you know you are diversity picked, which some of us have had to make peace with, you're then supposed to be on the front lines for these brands that don't give a damn, that would not do the same for you. Somebody else I think about, oh my God, Anita. From one black chubby girl to another, Anita is always made to be a brand or some white person's fall guy. And it's really to her detriment, because I think she's too funny and too good to do that. To reduce her to just being the guard dog for these brands is ridiculous. And it's just ridiculous because they don't do the same for us. They would never. Black people are expendable. Like, they don't care. And so if we gonna get in where we fit in and we here to get our money, get the bag. Anything past that, oh babes, I can't sit here and cap for y'all. Sorry. And the only reason why you would get up there and defend or try to explain for a brand or a person or a corporation that is really messed up is because you are trying to sustain this relationship. And then I do have to ask the black creator why. Because if it happened to X, Y, and Z, if this is who they're presenting themselves to be, why are you trying to continue to work with them? And this is so funny that I'm making this video. It's so poignant. And I don't know when you guys will see this, but as an influencer, I have made it pretty intentional to not do a lot of things. Some of these things, they're not easy to uphold. If you're an influencer, even if you're not an influencer, but really if you're an influencer, you know that the only place where there's real money to be made is like skincare, beauty, lifestyle, right? Even fashion don't really pay like that. Fashion pays you in like clout. You know, and like fashion will have you doing cool stuff and you're a bit more public facing and in like higher certain like rooms, but there's not really a lot of money to be made in fashion. Even from the modeling standpoint, e-commerce, so it's like shooting for brands, like shooting like for their website catalog or whatever, and beauty and lifestyle skincare, that is where the money is. Like, the runway models are not eating unless they're top tier. They're paying you in exposure. So that being said, and as somebody who does love lifestyle, skincare, beauty, fashion, I am intentional about not doing too many brand deals from that world because it's so consumerism focused. And I do feel a lot of internal conflict as a creator because I feel so called to do what I'm here to do, which is not just beauty and skincare. The conversations I want to have and the community I want to represent is bigger than just aesthetics. Not that aesthetics is not important, but it's bigger than that. And so, yes, I can say to myself, like, oh, just use this, right? Like, use the money that they give you, use the like whatever that comes with them to get to where you're going, right? But is it being dramatic if I say that it feels a little bit like blood money? Like I said before, when you get these opportunities as a black creator, it already don't sit right in your spirit. Black people are very spiritual people. It don't matter what spiritual practice you follow. Black people are very in tuned. And then it's like, then the scarcity, like, if these are conversations I'm literally having with myself right now. A brand that I've been working with pretty consistently for the past maybe 6 months, and then sometimes in those 6 months was the only brand that I was working with, is a company that, if I'm being so honest, I don't even support. I don't know if I want to mention them by name. I don't have like their subscription or membership with them, and I really only shop there like 3-4 times a year max. I'm really intentional about not spending my money there, and I didn't want to say yes to them in the first place. But in my head, I was like, they already out here doing mad things, right? And they're gonna give the money to a white girl who don't got half the talent that I do, who's not as creative as I am, who don't dress better than me, who doesn't make better content than me, if we're being honest. And so why would I like, and then also knowing that like this brand specifically, the content is usually around books. And I love talking about books. I think it's really important that people read. Reading has saved my life. And there are so many booktube, book related videos on this channel, book related videos on my Instagram, on my TikTok. I love reading. And so I literally felt like, okay, I already don't get a lot of brand deals because of, and I also don't say yes to a lot of brand deals. And so this is from a company who I know has the money. And that's another thing. These major corporations, they wave around their money and their opportunities very like flamboyantly, and they have the money. And so I can do less brand deals, but up the rate, what I'm asking, and sustain myself for longer. And so it felt like the lesser of two evils in a certain way. But literally, I'm not even trying to be dramatic. I literally, in this last campaign, I fully had like a panic attack. And I've been increasingly very anxious every time I work with them. Since the first time I've worked with them, we're just not in alignment. But I like ignored it the first time. I ignored it the second time. And this third or fourth time, I can't remember how long. Fourth, yeah, this is the fourth time. My body and my spirit was like, no. And I had already like had the mental breakdown, already called my therapist, was like, girl, this is not it. And she had to remind me like, Tahira, the Sincerely Tahiri is not a joke. You are here to be authentic, to be yourself, to live in your truth and walk down that path. And you're also a woman of faith. Like, you know that God got you. Why do you keep saying yes? And if anything, when you allow something that's not in alignment with you, that don't sit right in your spirit, when you continue down that path, they block so many other blessings. And so now I had to ask myself, is the reason sometimes they were the only brand reaching out to me is because like all of that was consuming me and energetically taking up space for other stuff. I can't even go into more details because I'll like really start getting emotional. And this may sound crazy if people are just like, girl, go get your money. And I will say that the average person probably don't think this deep. A lot of y'all work at jobs that are unethical and you just go get your bread and you go about your day. And I do think that influencers are held to a different standard, sometimes unfairly, a lot of the times unfairly, but also we get to choose where we get our money from, right? So it's like, I don't think that standard is always wrong in regards to like where we're being held. And then now it's so funny that I'm filming this video because in light of the increasing aggression and violence towards the people of Gaza, specifically in Rafah, people are calling for wide blocking of influencers, celebrities, and really divesting from people who are not kinfolk. You know, Black people have the saying, all skinfolk and kinfolk. Basically, people that are from where you from are not always your allies. And I always think about with Harriet Tubman, how she said that she freed so many slaves, but she could have freed a lot more if they wanted to be freed, or even how she had to pull a gun on her own brother and was like, bro, to freedom, my nigga. Looks like I'm looking at some of these people that are on this list. Some of these people that are on the block list in regards to like Muslim creators are people that I follow. And in some ways I admire them or I have been inspired by them. And it's like, is that my future? Because like when you start making certain allowances for things now, it's like, oh, okay. And, oh, child. The devil is a lie. This is not a spiritual conversation. We don't have to talk about, but the wash, the whispers are very, 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 very real. And so I have decided to no longer work with this brand. It feels very scary to say that because of, you know, if I'm being honest, like the ways that they are a brand that really do be supporting a lot of creators, even a lot of my favorite creators, my favorite video essayists, pro-Black, political thought like creators. This brand is sometimes the one brand sponsoring them because they have the money. When you're already like barred from some of these spaces because of who you are, it's real hard to say no. It's real hard to say no. I had my first 5-figure brand deal of my career from this brand. And all glory be to God, right? Allah did his big one. But it's just hard to not start to feel, especially as a Black creator, I'm so thankful, right? And I want to continue this relationship, or I want to maintain this. And also as a Black creator, you're always proving yourself. The bar is different for us. Thin white girls and the light-skinned girls and the non-Black girls could really give you nothing and get everything. For us, we are constantly having to push the mold on creativity, on content, on storytelling all the time. And really, this is who we are, right? But it's unfair when you're held to these standards. And then I'm going to keep saying the scarcity because it's very real. And this job is also super inconsistent. And like, we can have a whole conversation about how influencers literally don't get paid for maybe a month to 2-3 months, and how like the social media industry is like not really legally regulated. And so there's a lot of stuff going around that really shouldn't be, that really should not be allowed. but here we are trying to do the best that we can with what we got. I hope that like by making this video and talking about this, people are also seeing some of the complexities behind some of these decisions. But also I'm greatly inspired by all of these students at the encampments who, some of them are getting federal charges, who are foregoing their futures, their scholarships, their careers for Palestine. And I'm so moved by that. And so the hope is that like we all just do better, right? Like it's not really just about critiquing, not really about the celebrities. I don't care about the celebrities, but I do think some of the blocking in regards to like influencers, specifically from the Muslim community, some of it feels a little hate train mob mentality. And I hate using that word. I hate when people talk about that when we talk about like cancel culture, but it's getting a little mobbish, especially like to other Muslim creators. Like, are we calling out or are we calling in? With regards to Black people, are we calling out or are we calling in? I don't know. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to do? That was a long spiel. Anyway, not going to apologize because that's really what I've been going through right now. Get out of the scarcity and move with abundance, and knowing that because I'm where exactly I'm supposed to be, that Allah is going to open the doors in ways that I can't even imagine, but I have to believe that there's more. So the last brand situation I want to talk about is Tarte. We got to talk about Tarte. We got to talk about the Tarte trips, right? Like, like we got to talk about the Tarte trips. Now, for context, like I said, I'm an OG lover and consumer of media, social media influencer. I eat it up. So I grew up on YouTube, makeup YouTube tutorials. Like Jackie Aina high key raised me. Jackie and like that whole world, like y'all remember Dramageddon? Oh my gosh, girl, I was tuned in. So I bring that up because brand trips are not new to me. It was very daunting that when the first Tarte brand trip to Dubai came about, there were so many people talking about how unethical brand trips are. They're very wasteful, hyper consumerist, all of that. They're not wrong, but like I guess younger Gen Z really weren't around for the YouTube days, so this is their first time seeing a brand trip. I don't know. And there was also back then so much drama with brand trips, bringing one Black girl, or the Black girl was experiencing racism, and they was sleeping in smaller rooms, and they was being called all types of monkeys. Like it was never an ethical situation, but the girls didn't. It was good content, and the pictures ate, and you know we moved. Tarte was known for doing brand trips. Tripping with Tarte is not new, but Tarte as a company has lost relevancy in the last 5 years. I feel like the downfall of Tarte was the fact that they did not want to put Shape Tape in Sephora. My God, like what was that about? You know, there was other brands that came, and also Tarte has a history of being racist. Tarte not feel like Black people. Like Tarte is not interested in Black people and including Black people and working with Black people. They do not care. Tarte has been an unethical brand. They're very blatant about their racism. I don't know if I even have to say allegedly, because it's like, if you like Black people, why there's no shades? Why you don't want to see them wear your stuff, give you their money? I don't know. Anyway, Tarte did their trip. They did a few back to back to back. And that's how I knew it was like a publicity stunt, because this new generation don't know nothing about Tarte. So I think they were trying to like capitalize on these younger TikTokers, younger Gen Z girls. And so they had their trip to Dubai, which caused a lot of stir. Were there Black people on that trip other than Monet? And I'm not here to discuss Monet's mixed identity. Were there any darker skinned, monoracial, kinky haired, unambiguous Black people on that trip? I'm genuinely asking. I remember seeing that trip and it's like, okay, it was like what, 4 days in Dubai? I remember they had these 2 twin girls there who were allegedly Daisy. I don't know where they're from. And then Alex Earl was there. That's the first time I was introduced to her. Don't really want to talk about her. You could just tell by the type of person I am. Her content don't bang with me. People were talking a lot about the extravagance of the trip, and a lot of that ethical conversation was happening, which, like I said, I don't think it was wrong, but I was confused because nothing about Tarte was ever going to give you inclusive. Tarte was never going to give you woke. Tarte was never going to give you Fenty Beauty. And I think that was reflected in the influence that they chose to be successful in this industry, especially as a marginalized woman, means that you have to put a lot of your ethics to the side. That's how you get the brand deals. You don't get the brand deals and the money and the multi-million-dollar homes and like the jet-setting lifestyle and the millions of followers and millions by saying stuff like, oh, you're a brand that is either on the block, divest, not support list, or you have ties with a certain country. This brand is unethical. You use labor that is unethical. You don't get money by doing that. And so I can't speak to the ethics too much of these creators, like what they feel internally. What I do know is that, in my opinion, past just the girls that just want to get a cute bag and a cute trip, in regards to people that want a long-term relationship with these brands, they clearly are your kinfolk. Like, you clearly rock with them to a certain extent. What I will say though, in regards to like brand trips, brand partnerships, from a brand and a creator, this is supposed to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So the brand is benefiting from your audience and you're benefiting from their audience. They're benefiting from your exposure, you're benefiting from their exposure. And so if they go down, you kind of go down with them. We have to ask ourselves, is this in alignment with who I am and who I want to be? I think the creators that they've chosen to work with have made that like abundantly clear where they stand on a lot of things. It's not a shock that a lot of these creators also were pretty silent about Palestine. I'm sure that they were silent about Black Lives Matter. Like, these are not things that are shocking at all to me. Then there was the Tarte trip. They did another one. I remember Gloria was invited, who I love Gloria. She's beautiful. Oh, they had a bit more diversity in that trip. That was also to like a tropical place, maybe the Maldives. I don't remember where exactly. I didn't hear a lot from that trip. Wait, hold on. What happened with Cynthia, Shorty Sin on TikTok? Was that the tropical trip with Tarte, or was it the F1 Miami trip? I can't remember, but I do remember that Sin got on TikTok and said that she had a smaller room than a lot of the other creators. Typical Tarte move, typical brand trip move from brands like this. I remember her talking about it, but I wasn't surprised. And I'm sorry that that happened to her. And maybe some of the newer influencer girls, even if they aren't like, you know, you super young Gen Z, maybe they just weren't followers or watchers of YouTube makeup world. But if you don't know, now you know. Like, that's really how they move. And then it was the trip. Ooh, girl. That trip to Miami, which was crazy that all of that happened for a trip to Miami. I went to Florida in April, which is part of the reason why I was like MIA. I went to Florida 10 days with my family to celebrate Eid. And the flight was 3 hours. The tickets were literally less. I think I paid like $250. And so I didn't understand why there was cooning and tap dancing for massa on a trip to Miami. But essentially, just to describe it really quick, on this trip, Tarte was breaking up this trip into like 2 weekends. They had the first weekend and a certain amount of influencers there, and then they had the second weekend. I remember Bria Jones was involved, Fanita was involved, this other girl's Specs and Blazers, which I literally have not heard from her since. These were all Black creators that were kind of involved in this trip. Long story short, Bria Jones, who is a TikTok creator, I don't follow her. This is my introduction to her. She made a video talking about how she didn't understand why she was invited to the trip but wasn't invited to the entire trip. She found out when she was there that like the part of the trip that she was invited to, it wasn't even F1 weekend. Like, she wasn't even getting to the races. She literally was leaving like when the race was about to start, I think. She said that that wasn't clear. When they reached out to her team, she felt discriminated against. I'm not denying that that is most likely what happened. Unlike other people, what I am making that face where I'm like scratching my head about is like, I remember specifically her saying, I don't understand why they would treat me differently than other creators. And I had to look at her and be like, what do you mean you don't understand why they would treat you differently than the other creators? Then I went on her page and I listened a little more to how she talked. And then I saw her husband and I said, oh, that's why you're confused. Because hello, a lot of creators who are in these spaces, like trying to have this, like this really super progressive, like, oh, everything is fine. Like, we're in 2024. Like, who does that? Girl, racism ain't never died. It just shapeshifted and evolved with our time. If Black people are asking themselves, was it racism? 99.82% of the time it's yes. If you're being treated differently, is it because I'm Black? We don't have any evidence to prove that it's not because you're Black. That was really stupid for me to hear her be like, oh, I don't know why they treat me like this. Girl, be for real. The response from that was crazy. You have Fanita and Specs and Blazers get up there and talk about like, basically, girl, just be happy that you were invited here. Be happy that Master gave you a crumb. That was wild. And then the owner of Tarte was sitting there talking about, let's talk about the controversy. Get ready with me. What? Like, it was so dystopian. It was so dystopian. It literally felt insane to watch that. And like I said, I know this is pretty old, but I think that situation really summarizes a lot of my thoughts from this video, because you have Black people from, for lack of a better term, from different sides of the aisle, from different positions, different places of privilege. It just didn't go over well. And on some way, all the Black creators involved ended up tap dancing for these brands. It really bothers me because I know that what Black people and Black creators, what Black women bring to the influencer space is invaluable. Like, you cannot really quantify how much we move the culture, how much we are the culture, you know? And then even from a consumer standpoint, you cannot deny the numbers that we do and how we show up financially. But it always just seems like we get literally like the shit end of the stick. It just feels like every time we're in these spaces where you have to make these concessions within yourself. This is why I think now it's very popular in social media spaces for influencers to talk about, okay, how are we diversifying our income so that we're not just reliant on brands? And like that kind of just smoothly worked into the fact that I decided to start my YouTube membership. I was trying out Patreon for a bit, but it felt like YouTube membership / subscriptions was just an easier way to bring the exclusive content to you guys. If you don't know, YouTube membership is basically Patreon on YouTube. My subscribers can pay to be members, which there's only one tier. It's $2.99 a month. And in return, you get exclusive live shows, exclusive videos, vlogs, polls. You get your own membership feed. You get early access to videos. This was hard for me to like do because I've always felt like I would rather take money from these corporations, like take their money. But I think something that also really clicked in my head from reading the autobiography of Malcolm X is that Black people have really only ever had each other, and community is always how we move through, is always how we survive. And I feel safe in the transactional nature of this versus the transactional nature between some of these brands. So I would love it if you signed up, if you joined. The join button should be next to the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. But if it's not there, there's a link down below for you to join. I'm currently working on 2 special things over there. Number 1 is my London vlog. Y'all know that I did a girls trip with my favorite people in the world to London last year. I was sitting on the footage, never got around to it because I've kind of just been really focused on my commentary stuff. So I think a lot of my vlogs are going to be for my members. I really appreciate all the people that already signed up. It is a bigger conversation about influencers, especially Black influencers, having to diversify where the income is coming from and how reliant we are on these brands. One of the last things I will say is that one of the main premises of the brand trip, especially if it's not a paid thing, is that the brands are honestly really betting on you as a creator, especially a Black creator, feeling so indebted to them for taking a chance on you. And this is something that I feel very often. I'm constantly faced with people who don't get it, who don't really understand me, my intersections, my content, what I'm doing. And so there is a sense of like, oh, thank God, like, oh, you see me. When a brand wants to work with me, and I'm not going to invest in me, but like I said, it should be a reciprocal relationship. Like, for example, I worked with Doc Martens, and I was literally to this day like one of my favorite campaigns, one of my favorite partnerships to do, because they literally were like, we don't need you to talk about the specs of the shoe. Like, we want to know about your experience with fashion. We want to know, what does your self-expression look like? And I was able to make one of my favorite pieces of content that I've made in my career as a creator. I filmed it when I was in Colombia for the first time, and it's just so special. It was so beautiful. I was speaking Spanish and I did poetry. Like, it all came from them allowing me to be myself. And inshallah, I pray, I hope, I ask Allah to give me more opportunities like this, but those are very few and far between. Un poquito complicada, like just a little bit. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts if you are also fellow creators or influencers, and also if you are just people that are consumers. What are your thoughts on how ethics and morality come up with creators, specifically Black creators, specifically Muslim creators? How do you feel about brand partnership? Do they feel icky to you the way that sometimes they feel icky for us? How do you feel about brand trips? I would love to know all your thoughts down below. The experience and the opinion of the consumer isn't really considered in a lot of the influencer marketing world, which is unfortunate, because you would think that like these brands are hitting you up because they want like access to your audience, but sometimes they just want access to your Blackness. They just want access to all of your intersections. They love to be able to push your content as an ad and be like, look who we're working with, like we're so woke. And it just I think that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, comment down below any video topics you want me to talk about, or if there were any topics in this video that you want me to go into more detail on. I would be more than willing to do that. Like I keep saying, not too much on the influencers involved, not too much on topicals, like not too much, because I think that, you know, shame kind of works, but I think real growth comes from love, and like comes from a place of concern and care. And I think the more people that we can have at least thinking about these things, like that's what I hope that other creators start thinking about the decisions that they make, especially for other aspiring influencers and like creators, to create a firm sense of ethics and morality within yourself, because it's so easy to lose sight of that in this industry, in this world. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you follow me everywhere on the internet at Sincerely Tahiri. Don't forget to sign up to be a member if you can, if you got the coin. If not, send me a dua, send me a like, send me a comment. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.